Good day, viewers. Welcome to our second episode of Speaking Plainly with Thabo Makweya. Please share with our viewership who Mr. Louw is.
Well, most certainly. I think what's important for me, Thabo, is to say, I often describe myself as somebody who was born in the dusty streets of Louw. That's Louw. Because sometimes when you look at trying to make the connotation, then you would wonder, okay, who's this guy? But I was born and bred and raised here in Louw. That is where my mom and dad reared us as children, and I grew up there. And in fact, my family house is still in Louw, for that matter. My parents might not be there anymore, but the house is still there. And it's there for strategic reasons. It's important that the children must know where their roots are, where they're coming from, and who are they, in fact. Yeah, and as a result, I went to school here in Kimberley. I had most of my educational life in and around Kimberley. And Homeville was my alma mater. And and thereafter, obviously, I studied at a few universities in our country. And I ultimately landed up in the political space. And the one thing, because it's something maybe that your question refers to as well, is indirectly. Some people ask me, why politics? And because some people would often say to me, we could never see you as somebody that would get involved in the political arena and stuff like that. I said to them, well, you know what? You're right. But there comes a time in your life when you realize that you don't want to be complacent. You need to stand up and you need to actually become a voice for the voiceless. And the one thing that actually gave rise to me getting involved within the political arena itself is the fact that, in my area where I used to reside, in the floors, I used to see a lot of things happening there. And, some of these things really got to me. At the time, I was still working in the corporate world. And then I said to myself, I would go to meetings at times, but I didn't see the impact of the meetings that we had. I'm referring now to political ward meetings, And ultimately, I decided, and I said to myself, no, you know what? I want to stop using the blame game. I want to dirty my hands. And in dirtying my hands, I need to be able to make sure that I can become a voice to those that cannot speak for themselves. That is what drove me. That is what actually made me to decide to get into the political space.
On your manifesto, we'd just like to pick on a few issues. And one of them is, as you know, the issue that's been on everybody's lips, the land expropriation without compensation. Mm-hmm. And the DA has said they are not in favor of that approach and they would rather go for a different approach, and we would like for you to share with us how you see us redressing the land issue.
Well, thank you for asking that question. Because apart from the fact that it's a very sensitive question, because it's something that brings uncertainty, especially if political parties, we that are in that space, do not handle this thing with the utmost sensitivity and the utmost respect that it deserves towards the electorate out there. It's important for me to articulate as to what is the DA's view on this issue of expropriation without compensation. I need to say this up front, that we reject expropriation without compensation, completely, in its totality. Since this is just a rampant looting of private property who are actually meant to people. Because at the end of the day, it cannot be that we as a party can be seen that we promote or we even agree to this kind of methodologies. It was tried and tested in other countries, Thabo. It was seen that it's not working. I mean, politically we have matured as a country. Our democracy is relatively young. But you know what? We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We can learn from countries like Venezuela. We can learn from countries like
Mozambique and others, where they tried, this was tried and tested there, and it was found that it's not working. It can never be that we would like to try and reinvent that wheel. We are not interested in this type of reform that would see that the Kalahari Key Corporation, which offers emerging farmers toothless goats, too old to breed. I think the Kalahari kit was even during your time, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it started.
Yeah, it started during your time. But we are interested in a type of reform that would see like we're doing in the Western Cape, which has been successful, that where the DA government can leverage 80 million from the private sector each year. That is what we are interested in. Because you see, it's fine for the ANC and other political parties like the EFF to try and say that expropriation without compensation, let's give the people the land back. If this is the philosophy that they want to put in, people will remain tenants. You see, Thabo, to me, this is a very sensitive thing. I'll tell you why. And I want to, there's an emotional connection to this thing. You see, what the apartheid government did, in the time of our parents, my late mom and dad, in fact, I need to go home and check whether we have received the title deed to our property. It could be, I'm out of my parents' home for a very long time. I need to go and check. Thabo, at the time when my elder sister wanted to go and study, because my mom and my dad, my mom was a domestic servant. But she knew in order to have a better life for her children and her children's children one day, she needed to invest in a decent education in her children. They had the desire to do that. But unfortunately, there were some challenges that they experienced in between, amongst others, financial challenges. Because at the time when my elder sister wanted to go study at university, she could not. And a great part of that was because why? The property that, the 4-room house, whom my parents and I and all of us were living in, was not ours, did not belong to us. We were tenants on that property because we did not have a title deed. My parents did not have a title deed. So in other words, they were tenants in a property which they believed were theirs for many, many years. Can you imagine a situation where in the unlikely event or in the likely event, if that property happened to belong to my parents with a title deed, they could have taken that title deed, forget about what the valuation of the property would have been at the time, but still, by virtue of having a title deed, they could have gone to the bank and say, we would like to take out maybe a small bond in order to enable our daughter to go and study. Because in the unlikely event for them not being able to pay that bond back, then the bank who borrows them the money would have been able to attach the property. They didn't have that. Now you see, as part of my parliamentary responsibilities, my colleagues will tell you, the issue about title deeds is very dear to me. It's very, very dear to me because I understand. I know where we're coming from. I know where do I come from. And you see, if we want people to become what we have been under the apartheid government, being tenants of our own land and property, then people must consider this issue of expropriation without compensation. It's not working. It will never work.
What is your solution?
Well, our solution is, Thabo, we need to actually look at, we need to relax some of, our visa exchange control and our labor policies so that it can become easier to attract skills, capital, tourism to our province. Because you see, what needs to happen here is we need to make sure that we give greater policy certainty to potential investors. Everyone, including yourself as a businessman, you want to know, if I'm going to invest, what is my return on my investment? That's the first thing that people want to know. And if there are no certainty in what you're going to invest, you most definitely are not going to invest. We can never run away from the fact that there's a lot of people that want to come and invest in the Northern Cape. They want to come and invest in Kimberley. But I can bet you, those investments will never come. not while the ANC is in government in the Northern Cape, in particular this municipality. Because we need to make it easier, we need to make it attractive, and we need to make it more user-friendly for people to do business, so that businesses can flourish, so that businesses can give birth and rise to jobs. It is government's responsibility to create a conducive environment where jobs can be created. It is government responsibility to make it easier for businesses to come and invest, to be attracting businesses in order to relax and making sure that they get rid of red tape.
The ruling party claims that they introduced a few pieces of legislation that did not bring the results that they were hoping it would in terms of fast-tracking the land reform, call it backlog, not just reform, the access to land. I think here what comes to mind is your ESTA, your redistribution program and your restitution program. And they say their view is not to take on productive land, but rather land that is not being utilized by the current landowners. I was hoping that the DA would expand, Andrew, you would expand more on the kind of legislation that you would introduce to redress that situation, because it's quite an emotive issue and people would like to find out what the practical solutions would be to address the issue. If you would be happy to respond to that, I will appreciate it. If not, we can move on to the next issue. But I'm just happy that we're spending the amount of time that we are on this issue, because that's one of the things that I think the viewership will be very keen to really hear what you remember Namakwaland, we still have Section 11 areas where the issue of title deed is a real issue.
Exactly.
You know, it's those kind of things that I would just like to know, maybe another minute or so.
Yeah, well, yes, indeed. I would like to maybe go in there a little bit in more detail. You see, the important thing here is the DA, and I think people outside there, it's important when we come to that topic. The first thing that needs to actually put people at ease is the fact that do we have policy certainty? We need to be able to project ourselves in such a way to say that this is our position as a party. Because the moment the electorate start realizing that, but I can associate myself with the policy position of the Democratic Alliance in as far as the issue of land is concerned, then people will be able to understand what do we mean by that. Because what is land, Thabo? If we have to give a definition of land. Land, in layman terms, is a form of, economic redistribution. Because you see, the DA will give greater certainty to potential investors. In the current economic climate, very few investors will risk investing in a high-risk project. And policy certainty, as I said, is crucial. But greater policy certainty will be given by guaranteeing private property rights and protecting the essential freedom and individual own of businesses and private businesses. Those are the kind of things that the DA says are important to us.
A lot of people have attributed that to the fact that the National Party, the now defunct National Party, its members have then crossed over to the DA, and it has not necessarily seen an erosion in the support that parties like the ANC and calling all this in the province. Would you say that's a fair reflection of the situation? I know you've alluded to the changes that we see in Galeshewe, and that after the elections we are likely to see a huge change in that situation. But how would you say the National Party's demise in the province has assisted the DA's growth?
Well, I tend to differ with that, because when you consider the connotation that was attached to the National Party at the time to date, then I tend to differ with that philosophy. I think what is important here is the Democratic Alliance is a party for all the people. It's a party that believes in the open opportunity society for all. It's a party that believes in opportunity, fairness, openness, and diversity. Those are the values of the DA. Having said that, it cannot be, it's actually a myth, that one could actually draw that kind of analogy. We can never run away from the fact that people, notwithstanding from which political formation or ideological understanding you have, people come and people go. It's part of politics. I mean, it's important to note that myself and you, in 1994, I voted for the ANC. Because under the circumstances, it was the right thing to do. But you see, the party itself had actually gone into the wrong direction. And the moment when that happens, then people start taking stock of their own lives. Now, exactly like the National Party, it is, and I want to say this, that I can never articulate any values of the National Party because I was never a member of the National Party. I was a voter for the ANC in 1994. And later on, as time unfolded, because I realized that they're going into the complete different, wrong direction, I then actually had to take stock of my own life. So did many other people. And it was then that I decided to say, one can never run away from the fact that, how South Africa, Madiba, has liberated South Africa and its people, in particular the black majority. You can never run away from that. Those are the realities that are there. But the most importantly is the fact that we can never hold on to a party who, at the end of the day, have forgotten its people. And that is why I think me and many other people have actually decided to join political parties like the Democratic Alliance. This is home to many people. This is home to people of the Northern Cape, the people of all provinces. And this is home to whether you're black, you're white, you're Indian, you're colored. This is basically home for everyone. And that is why it's an absolute pleasure for me to serve as a member of this party, to serve as an activist on the ground, in order to go do door to door, house to house, street for street, community to community, to go and become actually an ambassador for the Democratic Alliance, in order to tell people that we need change, but desperately so, more in our province, and we need that change now. And that change can only come through the Democratic Alliance.
I will bring change. And I will make sure that at the end of the day, that as a head of your province, firstly is to instill and also to gain the confidence of the people of the province. And also to make sure that I told the Premier, you are talking about corruption. And at the time when she came to the issue about corruption, she was talking so silently, you could hardly hear her. But I could understand why. Because in my reply, I reminded her, I said, Honorable Premier, I'm still waiting, and the people of the province are still waiting on the 26 million rand, that case that you have laid against your own MEC for finance. Thabo, John Block was the MEC for finance. Matt Jack is no different. It's the same bus. The bus of corruption, the bus of unemployment, the bus of cronyism, the bus that pays patronage. The difference is different bus drivers every time. What we say here is, while we are having these challenges in our province, I say to the Premier, I'm waiting for you, because you have long lost your unpopularity as a Premier. You are no more the Premier of this province, because you actually don't want to take the bull by the horns. Show your boldness. Show us who is in charge. And say to Matt Jack, because you have laid, that case have disappeared. I went to Sylvia Lucas's house. I went to her house, and I'm on record, to ask a Premier, where is the case that you have laid against Matt Jack? I'm waiting for that. I will never sleep. I will never sleep. We will make sure that we're going to tackle these things tooth and nail. When people, and ordinary men and women in public, you see, when they do things wrong, very small things, people getting a fine, people that can't pay debts or that can't do whatever, those people get reprimanded. Here we're sitting with politicians as if we are any better than the ordinary person in our communities. We want to see justice that must happen. We are not going to talk about corruption. We will act against people who are corrupt. Because you see, corruption has become a cancer in the society that steals away opportunity of young people. When you look at the billions, not billions, the billions of money that went unaccounted for. And yes, you can ask the question, but Andrew, what have you done about that? My reply to you is quite simple. I've laid a number of complaints, and I've laid a number of criminal charges to the police. From the time of John Block to date, I'm laying charges against it because I'm acting against them. My intention is not to move out of the Northern Cape. My intention is to retire here one day. My intention is to see my children and my great-grandchildren one day to grow up here in this province. I'm here to stay. And that is why I want to make sure, while that is my intention, it should become a haven for all of us, including yourself. It should become a destination of choice for people to wanting to come to the Northern Cape. Thabo, this is a beautiful province with beautiful people. I mean, when you run up there from Namakwa with its beautiful daisies and you look at our rivers and you look at our people, then you actually realize that we are blessed to have such a beautiful province. The only thing that needs to change, we need to change the government in this province.
Thank you for watching, viewers. Do stay tuned to our YouTube channel. We hope to see you again soon as we've got more exciting stuff